Good evening, my little bookworms, Navajo bookworms. I wanted to go ahead and read to you tonight the story of Monster Slayer. This is a Navajo folktale retold by V. Brown, illustrated by Bahi Whitethorn. Editor's note. This book represents one portion of the Navajo traditional Monster Slayer story. The walking giant is one of 4 monsters who plagued the Anasazi villages. We chose, with the author's permission, to focus on only this monster because it is after the twins' encounter with Walking Giant that the name Monster Slayer is bestowed. In the beginning, there was Changing Woman, Astanaglehe, and her sons, the twins. When the boys were 12 years old, they asked, "Who is our father?" Changing Woman told them the sun was their father, so the twins undertook a difficult journey to reach him. In the beginning, there were also monsters of the earth who ate many of the village people, the Anasazi, causing their numbers to dwindle. Since the twins had won their father's affection and trust, they were sent back to the earth to help their people. How shall we help our people and save them from these horrible monsters of our homeland? Child born for water, one of the twins exclaimed. Our father has given us this lightning arrow to help mankind. Yes, indeed, replied the other brother, for truly the twins had been given the most powerful weapon on earth to help their people. Time passed and the monsters continued to haunt the villagers. The Anasazi were afraid of the monsters and couldn't plant their corn, squash, and beans or peach trees anymore. They had begun to starve in their hogans. We had plenty to eat before the monsters were born, the villagers exclaimed. They couldn't bear to hear their children crying of hunger. One day the villagers talked among themselves. Who will slay these monsters? Perhaps we could talk to Changing Woman, the creator of monsters and men. Perhaps she can help us. An old man declared, Changing Woman has 2 sons who showed us their great courage by searching for and finding their father. Perhaps they would search for the monsters, he said. The next day, before gray dawn appeared, the villagers packed their food for a long journey to the east. There, over the hills, lay Herfino Mountain, where Changing Woman and her twins lived. The villagers traveled for 4 days through the sagebrush and greasewood and in and out of the canyons across the plateaus to the east. They came to Herfino Mountain at last. Yat-eh! We are seeking Changing Woman, our mother, they all cried. Changing Woman said, Yat-eh! May I ask where you are coming from? We came from the village in the south, they all replied. One wise man stepped forward as a spokesman for the villagers. We came because we're suffering under the giant monster who took many of our people. Only you can help us. You have 2 sons of great courage. They have demonstrated courage and strength to us before. Therefore, we walked this far to ask your sons to slay the monster of our homelands. We cannot even plant cornfields or let our children play outside. We want to live in the peace and harmony. Changing Woman listened to the villagers. Finally, she said, I will have to talk to my sons. Go back to your village and don't speak of this to anyone. The twins were at the waterfall that day when the villagers came. They walked down the path to their mother's hogan. Seeing footprints in the sand, one twin said, Look there! Someone was here. When they entered the hogan, their mother said, Come in, my sons. Someone was asking for you today. Many village people came to our hogan pleading for your help. The villagers fear for their lives. Listen, cried one of the twins, cocking an ear towards the south. Did you hear that noise? Changing Woman went outside to see who made the thundering sound. "It's the walking giant," she replied. The sound of thundering footsteps faded into the south. Meanwhile, the twins put on their armor and lightning arrows. They said goodbye to their mother. The twins set out to hunt the walking giant, one of the troublesome monsters to the south, with armor set about their shoulders, their sacred magic feathers in their hands, the lightning arrows in their belts. The twins walked south and were not afraid of anything. The Holy Spirits gave them guidance when they needed. They walked over the mountains, in and among the juniper trees. They approached a lake and calmly looked at it through the cattails and tall reeds. "Do you hear what I hear?" cried one twin. "Do you feel the earth trembling under your feet, brother?" Child Born for Water answered. "Yes, indeed," said the other. "Why don't we find a rock that will shelter us from the walking giant?" Child Born for Water suggested. The boys found a projecting rock that hid them from the giant's view. The loud noise thundered nearer and nearer. Walking Giant came to a halt by the lake and sniffed the morning breeze. "I smell the blood of children," he cried. He cautiously drank from the south. Then the west, then the north, where one of the twins saw his waist, but not enough of it to shoot the arrow. Walking Giant came to the east side of the lake and there took his fourth drink. He sat there momentarily, looking around the lake. Restlessly, he knelt down, lifting all of his weight to one knee. He said again, "I smell the blood of humans." In voices able to be heard by the giant, the boys answered, "We smell the blood of a giant." Walking Giant quickly turned, but there was no one. A third time the giant declared, "I smell the blood of twins." The boys answered again, "We smell the blood of the walking giant." The twins were aware that the giant knew where their voices had come from, but their father had instructed the boys not to shoot the first arrow. "Since Walking Giant is older than you," he said, "let him shoot first." The boys followed their father's command. Walking Giant flung his boomerang at the boys' heads and echoed a bellowing laugh. "You missed us, Walking Giant," the twins said as they stood aloft on their magic feathers. 4 times the magic feathers swiftly lifted them high into the air, safe from the fierce, swishing boomerang. The twins managed to escape the giant's weapon. Child Born for Water said, "You have taken so many of our people in the villages. We have come to take your life." Again the giant laughed. "Ha ha ha ha." The other twin drew back his lightning arrow with all of his strength, aimed it at the giant's heart, and released it. "The giant will not dwell among us any more," he said. With that, the giant fell, and his blood spilled upon the earth to form a river of lava. The heroic twins walked back to their mother's hogan. Changing Woman explained, "You are 2 fine boys. Which one of you slayed the walking giant?" One of the twins stood up and answered, "It was I, Mother." She looked into his eyes and said, "I shall name you Monster Slayer. Your people will know you by this name." Monster Slayer stood proud, for he was happy with his new given name. He was happy to have made the village safe for his people. "Thank you, Mother," he replied. "I like my name, for I am Monster Slayer." I chose this book because this book talks about the heroes of the Navajo people. The Monster Slayers existed to fight the evils that happened on the earth. So I like to think of them as our first Native American Avengers. And so they saved us from a lot of things. And the cool thing is, they still exist with us today. We will be reading more about Monster Slayer and Child Born for Water in different adventures. But I look forward to reading to you guys again tomorrow.